ragamuffin keeps striving in every way. International, what they call we international. When me ride palm rhythm in the move, but the rhythm and I come down crucial. And me ride palm rhythm and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place, I with the one Jamalski. We are the general. We sit up on the rhythm and over the mic incredible. I'm me right palm rhythm and I move with the rhythm. I sit down steady. Every ragamuffin you do, I feel rock and follow it. Cool, you know you love her for your life. Make we jump up on the rhythm, make we ride it right. We chat up on the mic and keep it international. Cause anytime we chop a mic, they call we give it a general. International, what they call we international. When me ride palm rhythm and I move with the rhythm and I come down crucial. And me ride palm rhythm and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place, I with the one Jamalski.
Hey, what's up everybody? Joshua Cass, we're back at you with another stream. Today I'm very excited. I'm coming to you with a living legend, in my opinion, Mr. Tommee Profitt, doing a number of incredible things, from producing for NF, an incredible hip-hop artist, to some solo projects that are in their own right absolutely incredible, including, and I believe this is how I got put on to Tommee, was the track placement and the Apex Legends trailer. So I'm very excited to bring on Mr. Tommee Profitt.
How is it going?
I'm going well. They're telling me that I'm muted now. Oh my gosh.
Oh well, you gotta unmute.
But
But you are.
hold on. No, I'm not muted. They're not. Oh, they're messing with me. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, Tommee.
I like those guys.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lackey, for helping me with the stream today. Tommee, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, dude, thanks for having me. That's quite the intro. Jeez.
Well, I mean, it's all well deserved, obviously.
Well, I appreciate it.
We actually were supposed to link up a couple of months ago, but things fell through for unforeseen crappy reasons. But when I was talking to you earlier, you said you had a big project coming up, and I'm guessing I know what that project is now because it's been released.
That's true. You probably do.
Yeah.
It's a Christmas album.
Was that what it was?
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Is that what you thought?
I thought it was Clouds.
Oh no! I mean, that came out also now.
Okay. All right. Well, before we jump into everything, including your Christmas album, including Clouds, including everything else, why don't you go ahead and give us a quick introduction to you, so to give Philip a little bit more of the background that I hadn't included in the intro. Just let us know who you are, and we'll jump right into everything else we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I mean, the short version is I grew up in Michigan, and so I just fell in love. My parents bought me this keyboard that was literally like 14 keys, really tiny, and I just fell in love with it. And I would listen to music that I heard on like TV and stuff, and just try to figure it out and learn to play by ear. Um, and then I just continued writing. It's funny because I was like, when I was about 12, 13 years old, I would sit in my parents' basement, put headphones on, and just program MIDI and make like these instrumental tracks. And then I'd go to school and I would sell them for like $3.
So, oh my God, can you hear me?
What's going on? I can hear you.
Yeah, OBS is just continually reconnecting, dude. I apologize for this. This has just been an absolute nightmare, as I told you. But yeah, you just happened to be friends with Nate?
Well, I didn't know him. His one of his friends sent me his album that he did. He did it up in Michigan from a local producer, and his friend heard about me just because I was doing music in town, right? And so he just said, "Hey, listen to my friend's album." And that happens a lot. Like people send me music, like listen to my song, listen to my, and I can't always listen to everything, but I listened to his album and I was like, wow, this kid's super talented. Like we should work together. And we just got together and we just hit it off. We have a very similar style in music that we like, as far as like the cinematic sound and strings and piano and that kind of thing. And so it was just like a perfect match from the very first song we ever did. And we've just been partners ever since. And then through that, it's opened up doors for me to do this music for trailers and video games and TV shows and movies. And that's my first love, is that kind of music, So it's fun to do that, as well as infuse that kind of music into his songs, but more of a hip hop, style and stuff.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, you definitely have a cinematic vibe on all the music, especially that you've done with him. That's just like a match made in heaven, though, it seems, and that's just incredible that, as fate would have it, you guys linked up. What was your first big hit, either with him or even before him? Was it The Search was the first big one that kind of exploded?
No, it was before the album before The Search. It's called Perception. And there was a song on that album called Let You Down.
Ah, yes.
And that song kind of did a crazy thing all over the world, and it's still to this day, it's like crazy just to think about, like all the stuff that song did and where it went and the doors that it opened for him as an artist and for me too as a producer and a writer and all that stuff. So very thankful for that song. I mean, that was a big that was a big moment for us, for sure.
I think that was YouTube recommended that song to me, and I loved the song before I knew that you were the producer of that song. And then I went on more of an NF search and was like, oh my gosh, this is all fantastic. And I noticed the cinematic style, and I'm a big cinematic guy. This whole month we've been talking to people who do trailers for Hollywood film and stuff.
Yeah.
We talked with High Finesse, we talked with Evolving Sound, and it's just been like, I was like, oh, this is intense. And then the Apex Legends trailer dropped, and I'm just trying to give you how I found you. Apex makes incredible decisions on the music that they put in their trailers for their seasons. And then they do season 5, they used a track, and I always do like go in and find out who made the track. And then I found you, and then I did a quick Google search, and then they started leading me to NF, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the guy that did all of that too. And I was like, if I can talk to this guy for the channel, it'd be absolutely amazing, dude. It's got well over 1 billion streams at this point, doesn't it?
Let You Down?
Let You Down and a few others.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's so funny because I don't always get all the stats, and so every once in a while, Nate will come in and we'll work on stuff, and he'll tell me like, bro, my team just updated me, and we're just it's crazy, I mean, some songs just decide to do a thing, and you never know, what there's no rhyme or reason why something just works. There's been other songs, even like a couple covers that I've done that have gone on and done like viral things on TikTok and all that stuff. And
That was a
it's like,
Linkin
why
Park
that?
cover, yeah?
Yeah, in the end. And it's, we're about to reach 20 billion global streams on that song. I'm like, what? Like,
That's insane.
why? There's other things that I feel like are better, but that one's doing a thing. And so that's kind of the fun of it too, is like you never know where songs are going to land, what songs are going to just pop off and do a thing, you know what I mean? And just watching each song just kind of has a life of its own once you put it out there.
What's going on TikTok with that cover? Is there like a dance or
I,
something you're doing?
no, there's no specific dance. I think people are just putting it on like Instagram Reels and TikTok videos of just like a lot of it's nature shots, like crazy mountains or waterfalls. Um, Sometimes it's like some crazy rooftop restaurant, like in different countries all over the world. I mean, it's crazy. The song is used in about 5.5 million videos, and
Insane.
those videos are getting millions of views. So it's just like going crazy.
So is that all tracked and sent back to you in terms of what it's doing? Like, how do you where do you find that sort of data? Is there like your agent doing that or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. Well, I have a distribution deal with Capitol and Universal, and so they have all the software that tracks it. The song is in their system, and every single time it's used somewhere, it's tracked. I don't know how it works. I
Yeah.
just they send me an email and tell me sometimes.
I just know when I hum the chorus to a popular song and I get hit with an ad or a copyright strike. So I know someone somewhere has got to be tracking these things. So, but that's
Right,
awesome, man.
totally.
That is absolutely incredible. And yeah, like you were saying, you never really know what's gonna be the one that gets out there. But clearly, you've had the one multiple times. So
Well,
that's
well, and it's
amazing.
fun. I mean, it's fun too because like the TV film stuff that I do, like I don't typically ever write a song for a specific show, or movie or game. I just make music that sounds cinematic, and then it's pitched all over, and then we'll get an email randomly that will just say, you know, hey, we want to use your song in like Apex Legends, for example, or we want to use your song in this trailer. And so you never know where the songs are going to end up, even on a TV and film trailer kind of world.
So you've mentioned composition for trailers and TV. Have you done anything specifically for that, or is the majority of what you're getting in terms of those just placements for music you did for music itself?
I mean, it's kind of both. Like, I make music specifically for trailers to be placed, but
Oh,
not
okay.
for a specific show. Like, my favorite thing to do is to make big cinematic music, and then for it to go out and be used in TV shows and movies. So even though I don't know which TV show or movie it will be in, I just kind of make it and then I release the music because I think the audience for cinematic music is actually a lot larger than people realize or give credit to for some reason. There's channels on YouTube, for example, just with millions and millions and millions of subscribers that just epic fantasy sci-fi video game music and hour long, versions of songs, and like people love that. People
Yeah.
listen to that stuff like crazy. They put it on just on their way to, soccer practice. And it makes them, for a second, it makes them feel like their life is a movie. It's super epic. And you know what I mean? Like, or while working out or running, like people just like big, energetic music. And so it's definitely, there's definitely an audience for it. And I always listened to trailer music when I was in high school and, through college and stuff. And so it's fun to be able to make that music and then have an outlet for it to possibly be used, you know?
Well, I mean, I think it's called like Epic. If you do like a search on Spotify or something for
Yeah.
Epic music, you'll find a lot of what could be your instrumentals. But then you throw NF's vocals on top of that, and you've got obviously, he's got a lot of passion in his voice. That passion mixed with your passionate music, obviously,
Right.
really sells the end product there. I had a question about that. So if you sit down, right, and write your track, you've got an idea for a song, and then you pitch it to Nate. Um, I'm sure your song kind of already has a story in itself. Like you've got a kind of an intro, you've got a build up, you've got the breakdown before the crescendo, and these sorts of things. You definitely have that sort of style in most of the tracks that I've listened to. Um, what's the collaboration process like between you two? Does he ever ask that something gets changed midway in the song or anything like that, or are you just like, no, this
With
is it, bro?
No, like for him, it's very much collaborative the whole time. Like we actually love to do this. Like it's our favorite thing for him to come in with a blank session and just go through sounds and find interesting sounds, and then play different chords, sounds that I know he'll like or sounds I know he won't like. But like just come up with ideas, and sometimes we'll just play like a progression, and then he'll get on the mic and just like try different ideas, just spitballing off the top of his head. But I don't generally make a track and then send it to him, just because we like to make it together. I mean, he has a lot of ideas, and we put our heads together, and we feel like that's probably stronger for him as an artist, for his brand and what he wants. For the other stuff, I'll probably do that more. I'll probably just make a track the way I want it to be, because it can be whatever. I can put anything in it, that I like the way it sounds. But for him, he might be like, oh, I don't like that sound, let's take that out, it sounds better without. Like we like collaborating together. So he's here almost the whole time, like while the track's being built. And sometimes he'll write in the back while I kind of build some stuff. Other times we'll build something and he'll just take it and come back when he has a verse.
Is he
different.
based in Tennessee too?
Yeah.
Oh, wild. I mean, that really works then, doesn't it?
Yeah. So we met in Michigan. We were both from Michigan. We did his first 3 albums in Michigan, and then he moved down here, and I followed shortly, and now we're able to work together, pretty much any time. He lives like 20 minutes away, so that works really well.
Wild. So let's move on to your Christmas album, the big project that you're having. That we talked. I forgot how long ago that was that we were supposed to link up. Why don't you fill me in on what that was all about? And you collaborated with a ton of different vocalists on that one, right?
Correct. Well, so the Christmas album that's actually a project I had wanted to make for 15 years. And that's not an exaggeration. It's actually exactly 15 years, strangely enough. 2005. I was in college, and one of the assignments in a music class was to one of the assignments was to like rearrange a Christmas carol, just do something new with it. And so I did that for the assignment, but I was like, man, that was really fun. Like one day I want to do a big Christmas album where I kind of just put my spin on some songs and just do, like big, like make a soundtrack for Christmas, like a big epic. If like the makers of Lord of the Rings made a movie about like the traditional story of Christmas, like that's pretty epic. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
That's like a pretty epic story in itself. Like the idea of this king coming to save the world, like what's bigger than that, right? So I'm like, the music has to be big, and like we just kind of sing through these carols that are familiar. So I'm like wanting to infuse some like something new, I guess, into those songs that everyone's kind of heard growing up. But yeah, it was super fun. It turned into a much larger collaboration than I even thought when I started. Every song has different featured artists singing on it, you know, and it ranges from like all different kinds of artists. And but the key thing was each song. I feel like each song, the artist is their voice. Like I had their voice in mind when I made the track and the arrangement before I even asked them, or before they even knew about the project. I kind of like did it like as I was building the song. I thought of an artist. And I was like, their voice would just make this incredible. So I finished the whole thing musically, and then I put out the ask to all the artists. And thankfully, somehow, every single person said yes. I think it was because it was kind of new into COVID, and everyone was like at home and had nothing to do, and they were like so excited just to, to be
Have
involved in
something.
something.
Yeah, that's
And
wild.
so,
So you got 100% success rate there.
yeah, and that's actually why I was able to even do the project finally after 15 years. Like I had tried to do it previous years, and I just was too busy. I had too much on my plate. And finally, like when everything kind of locked down in quarantine, I was like, well, no one's coming in. Like maybe I can finally do that Christmas record. And I was planning on doing it in a month, and it ended up taking me 6 months. So it kind of expanded, but that's probably the most fun I've ever had making music in my entire life, just
Oh
because
wow.
it was just a new exercising new muscles and a new vision for Christmas, and it was just something I've wanted to do for so long. You know what I mean?
And that was released right around uh, the season, as it were.
Yeah, yeah. It came out kind of early because it was through a label. It was through Capitol, so it came out in October, and that's when people put out Christmas records. No one, I mean, people listened to it a little bit when it first came out, but I learned a lot about the window of Christmas music listening. And it's much smaller than I thought.
Well, it's
Because
because
my wife,
Oh, go ahead.
well, I was saying my wife loves Christmas music, and so I just thought it was normal. November 1, you turn on Christmas music. That's not the case for most people. Most people, it's like Thanksgiving or December 1st, but a lot of people don't even listen till the week of or 2 weeks leading up to Christmas. So it was just interesting to learn. But then every year it comes back around, and so we kind of have like a 10-year promotional story that we want to tell. Like there's so many songs on it. There's 17 songs. So every year we'll kind of highlight a couple new songs and do some music videos and just grow the story and awareness.
That's wild, man. That's cool. That's such a cool story, dude. And that's what better way to celebrate Christmas than to make an 18-track album about it, man.
You're right. Yeah,
That's
it was fun. And you know why I did that? Because I only wanted to do that one time and one time only. And so I'm like, I got to do all the songs now, so no one's like, do a deluxe version and add some songs. I'm like, nope, I hit them all. I hit all the ones I wanted to, and I never want to touch it again.
what's the licensing on Christmas songs? Does someone own copyright to anything? Or are those all just in the domain at this point?
Every song but one is public domain because it's more than 100 years old or whatever. So there's one song, "Mary Did You Know," which is kind of, I think that was written in like the 90s or something like that. So you just get a license to release a song, a cover of it. But yeah, I think the thing that was so fun too is these people on this album, the singers are, in my opinion, some of the best singers on the planet. Like ridiculous voices. And it has to be, everything I do kind of starts super small with like a tiny piano chord. But then by the end, like the world is exploding. Like that's the epic nature of it. And so like you have to have voices that could go there and just like be so powerful, and the ranges of these people. Like I tried to push every single singer one or two notes higher than they've ever tried to sing before.
Oh wow.
Just to get their best performance, and they all just crushed it. I was really, really happy with it.
So were you lucky enough to have everybody come to you, or did you need to go to other people, or they recorded and sent vocals to you? Like what was that process like?
I think 3 or 4 people I vocal produced through FaceTime. So like this call, like they were in the booth and they were either tracking their own vocal or someone was. And I was listening and giving ideas and talking through, and we did it over FaceTime. Since it was at the end of the process, some of the restrictions had lifted a little bit, and a lot of people were able to come in and one at a time and just do their vocals in here. But yeah, so most of them came in. It's a lot better in person,
Of course, 100%.
But you got to do what you got to do.
I'm wondering if we can shift more towards actual production. We're talking about vocalists right now. What do you find yourself doing in terms of treating vocals? I mean, whether it be compression, saturation, so on. And obviously, if you're working with a professional, like, platinum class vocalist, processing is probably going to be pretty minimum. But I was just wondering kind of where you start and maybe some of the more extreme stuff that you've done on whatever project you want to talk about.
I was so funny. I was just talking with some producer buddies yesterday about this. I think compression is the biggest. That makes the most difference in a vocal recording to me. Like when I record vocals going into the mic, I go through 2 LA2A compressors, plugins, and they're both printed as they sing through it. And then once it's in, I would use Pro Tools. Once they're in Pro Tools, I'll throw a LA2A on the vocal track itself, and then it goes to a vocal bus with some EQs and stuff. But there's another LA2A on that, so it's like compression. It's like a little bit, and then a little bit, and then a little bit, and stacking it up. That's like a way of getting small emotional vocals to feel very front and forward. And then also when they're belting and holding notes, dialing in the peak reduction, obviously, so that it still is forward and powerful, but you're containing it so it's not, all over the place. And so I think my biggest tool for vocals is compression, and lots of it, especially for hip hop vocals like Nate's. I mean, we compress the crap out of his voice, and it has to be, because it's more. For rap, it's more about the percussive timing, right? It's that staccato. Whereas singers, it's probably more flowy, and you know what I mean. That's more how people would sing, something. So that's my trick, if you call it that, like a bunch of LA2As.
You said 4 of them, right? What was that? That seems to be the secret sauce, if anyone's listening.
4 LA2As. Making sure that not one of them is absolutely crushing it. And then just EQs, like an SSL, EQ, a channel strip, and then maybe some, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. There's a couple other UAD EQs that I might just give a little bit, and then I actually, one of my favorite plugins of all time now is Neutron. Do you know that plugin?
From Isotope.
Isotope, Neutron.
Yep.
3, I think they're on now. The visual nature of that EQ, as well as the fact that you can put it on all your tracks and they communicate to each other and show where things. I guess I layer a lot.
Well, that's that's how you make your own original sounds. That's how you get the biggest sound you can get. That's how you get exactly what you want. I mean, it makes sense. So yeah,
yeah.
I've been watching your short kind of walkthrough tutorials, which are pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And you talk a lot about layering and sampling, well, stacking samples rather. And I mean, it's been working. Yeah.
I think that making those videos pointed out to me to realize how much I do layer. Like, I guess I didn't realize. I mean, I knew I did it, but I guess I just thought it was normal. Like, everybody did that. But I probably layer an excessive amount.
So moving from composition and vocal processing and string libraries, who does your mastering? Is that a label thing? You send it to the label and the label gets that done, or you do it yourself? Or
I mix and master probably 95% of the stuff that I do, just because I I always had to. And you kind of have it in a really good place when you're done with it. A lot of times when you send it off, it's not their fault, but people just don't know what you want. How can anyone read a mind, right?
Right.
So a lot of times they'll go for a different approach, especially in mixing. Sometimes when you send a song off, some guys put every fader at 0 and rebuild the song. And mixing is so, subjective, where it's really a matter of opinion, and it's preference. And I like the drums loud. I like the vocal really loud. I like the music quiet or loud. Like, it's all preference. So if I have it in a really good place, and then I just put some mastering plugins on my master bus, and most of the time that's what ends up being released.
More LA2A compressors?
No, I actually used a passive EQ by Native Instruments.
Okay.
And I used the linear multiband compressor by Waves.
Okay.
And then I use a precision maximizer by Universal Audio. And pretty much those 3 things are that's mostly my master bus.
And that's just approved, and that's what gets published. That's crazy. That's awesome, man. Because what you
yeah, and we'll try.
Go ahead.
Like this last NF record, the Clouds mixtape, we sent it off, to have it mastered so we could compare. But I think, when we print a mix and it has this mastering on it, and we hear it and we kind of like listen to it a bunch and kind of get used to it, and that's what we want to hear. Sometimes it's not that it's better. It's not a better or worse thing. It's just a preference and almost a demoitis thing, where it's like, well, it just sounds different, and that freaks you out.
Yeah.
The artists will get freaked out if something is different than what they're used to, unless it's like massively better. Like, hey, this mix is trash, let's just send it to a mix guy, and then they clean it up and make it really hit hard. That's different, But I feel like we have the songs already in a 95% place, so we'd rather just spend a day taking a few songs the extra 5% ourselves, and then that way you have it all on your computer and you can adjust anything you want. It just kind of makes it easier.
No, I mean, oh, go ahead, keep going.
Well, I was just gonna say the last thing is, mixing styles are just different, and mastering styles are different. And a lot of people mix for pop or hip hop, and I kind of learned a different way where they do that way better. Like, hands down, I don't even have a problem saying that. Like, they're way better mixing those kinds of things. But then, like, cinematic mixing is a whole different thing that I just think a lot of people they just don't do it, because that's not what they're used to listening to. They don't really know how are these big hits still supposed to feel like they're slamming you in the face, but there's also an 808 and a kick and 80 tracks of orchestra music. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It's about the placement, the levels of instruments a lot. That's a different style of just cinematic mixing. And I think since I just grew up listening to a lot of that music, I just naturally tend to do it that way. You know what I mean? So it's not better or worse. It's just a different sound. It's more of a cinematic mastering, where it's not crushed, and
Yeah.
the kick and the 808 and the vocal is the only things you hear, really. And then there's like little keys below that you can barely hear. Like, that's a lot of hip hop, right? So this stuff is more like big movie sound. So it's just a different style and preference of.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say
Placement
your
of-
music has a huge dynamic range when compared to like a house track or a hip hop track that's usually just pretty much, if you look at the wave file,
Linear.
but yours has this, and then it goes to this, and then down to almost nothing but an acapella. You know what I mean? I'm sure that's a completely different thing.
There's a tendency to squash that stuff too. Like, if the beginning of the song is kind of softer, they'll compress it really, to bring it all forward. But then by the end, when it's really big, it's so compressed and crushed that it's like, sounds bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So sometimes when I master a song, I change the settings of the mastering from the first half to the second half of the song.
Yeah.
And that's probably technically horrible to do. I don't know. It's probably wrong technically, but that's like what it needs to sound like in my head at the end. Like compress this part this way and then this part this way, and it sounds good at the end. So, you know what I mean? That's the thing I think a lot of people need to realize too that are starting to mix or produce. Like there's no rules. There's no right way to master or mix a kick drum or a vocal. Like you just do what you like, the way it sounds. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you've got billions of people saying you're doing a great job, so I wouldn't even worry about technically
Hmm.
right or not, man.
I'm
I think you're
I'm
paving the
not the
way for what
technical
is
guy.
right and wrong, I think.
I don't know.
No, it's pretty wild, man. I know you're a busy guy. I won't take up too much more of your time. We're coming up on an hour already. It flew by. Maybe
Yeah.
if you have any sort of, I guess, tips for the people looking to get into music production, either cinematic or holiday music, even, or hip hop, or trailers, or getting music play. Like, are there any tips you'd like to maybe give your younger self who before exploding into fame and fortune? Like, what would you say to yourself?
Um, I think the most important thing is like you have to sacrifice a lot now for in order for your later self to achieve what you want to be able to. So when I use this example a lot, but when I was in college, all my friends would go out on, Thursday night or whatever for like I think Applebee's had half off appetizers. They'd all go out and then they'd go see a movie or whatever. And so I'd be the guy that's like, oh no, I got, I'm gonna work on music. And they're all like, come on, dude, like,
Yeah.
let's go out, hang, whatever. But I really put like some strict boundaries on myself to like, you know what? In 10 years from now, I'm not gonna remember what appetizer I ate that night, but I will remember that song that I made in the studio that ended up I worked with this artist and then that opened a door for this other person and literally a career was born from one night of working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like being passionate. And I will say this, it's probably way harder now to do that because not necessarily saying no to hanging out, but the like phones and Netflix and Hulu and like binging TV shows wasn't a thing when I was in college in that stage, right?
Right.
So I feel like now it's probably even harder because we love to just at the end of the night just go on our phones for hours.
Yeah.
That's probably not good. It's like those hours
That's
if
definitely
you
not
take
good.
all those
It's 100%
yeah,
not
but
good.
if you take all those hours and put them towards what you're passionate about to try to make a career for yourself, think about how many hours you would gain. And you have to put in those hours. That's what it takes. It's all about the hours. You have to do something that sparks some like a buzz and people hear about what you do, they know about what you do, they want what you do, they ask for what you do, they hire you to do that for them. Like you have to get to that place. You're never going to have someone walk around your neighborhood and just knock on doors and say, "Hey, I'm a record executive. Anyone in here do music? I'm looking to sign someone." Just sight unseen. Like that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You have to get their attention by doing good work. You can't do good work unless you put hours into it. That's just the way it is. So make 100 tracks in the next 4 months. That's my challenge.
That's it.
And it doesn't even matter if they're good. They never have to see the light of day. They don't have to be released. Just make a track because every time you do a track, you learn something. You learn what didn't work. You learn what did work. You find a sound or a plugin that you can use again that you like. Just it's repetition. It's just doing it, and just creating something. Creating something of your own that you can dive into and see yourself doing the rest of your life. Because I guarantee you, your future self will thank you way more for that sacrifice and that time being spent, way more than the unhealthy appetizer that you scarfed in the conversation that you can't remember that you had with your buddies. I'm not saying no friends, right? Like you have a balance. Every person is different, but just build that foundation. Like you got to start now.
Well, yeah,
It's going to take years.
I think iPhone has that. If you look, it will show you how many hours you've spent on applications. I know people who are
Yeah.
afraid. You'll be like, let me see how long you've been on Instagram, and they won't even. They're so ashamed about how long they've been on Instagram looking at other people's photos that they won't even let you see how many hours that is. So that's not an uncommon thing between that and Netflix, like you said. Just hours and hours.
Oh, 100%. You could easily make, just from Instagram time alone, you can make 1 track a week. Easy.
Yeah.
Probably several. I'm just being really,
Be nice,
conservative
yeah.
on my estimate. Like, and think about it. Then that's 52 tracks a year that you'll make that you wouldn't have otherwise. Like,
and what are you gaining from Instagram?
It's numbers.
No.
Yeah, it's actual numbers. It's not just speculation. You will actually have 52 more tracks every year if you do 1 a week.
It's facts.
It's not an argumentative issue. It's true. So just do that. Yeah, like I'm really passionate about inspiring and motivating people to like do their passion, because there's not enough people that are doing their passion today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. 100%.
There should be a lot more.
Well, thanks, Tommee. I mean, you just dropped the knowledge bomb on everybody.
Right.
But you're speaking the truth, and we appreciate the truth. Thank you very much for taking the time today to talk to us. I apologize again for the commotion here with the stream and me having to do everything, but I think it went all right.
No, it's all good.
But thanks again for coming by. Keep doing what you're doing, and whenever you got something else coming up, if you remember, just